Hi guys, welcome back to Packet Rift. Are you wondering how cloud computing works? Are you curious to know something about it? If yes, then you are at the right place. Today we'll try to know some basics about the cloud computing. So let's get started. So let's start with how server deployment model got evolved and how traditionally it was done and how it is done now. So first deployment model was dedicated server. So initially, the organization or the enterprise who are into the IT businesses or who handles the IT resources used to set up the dedicated servers to run their different applications. So for each application, different servers were being deployed, and end users or the employee of the organization used to access those dedicated server to you access the different applications. Then comes the virtualization of the server deployment. Thanks to the hypervisor, which enabled the different applications to run on a single server. So here there is no need to buy new physical servers to host the different applications. Virtualization technology like hypervisor converted server into the multiple logical server, which then can be used to host the multiple applications. Here the user can access the single server to um, get the access of the multiple applications which obviously are different in the functionality. Now this virtualization technique was very beneficial for web hosting businesses because the same physical server as here you can see in the diagram can be used by multiple tenants or the end users to host their websites, but they had some disadvantages as well. Let's say if tenants has a high capacity requirement for their own growing business websites, to similarly, to accommodate such a request from multiple tenants, web hosting provider has to grow their hardware servers, which can then accommodate high traffic requirement for their end users or tenants. So every time requirements for resources grow, they need to buy the hardware resources like servers, storage, and other computing devices. So ultimately, for their deployment, the organization or enterprise has to own the physical server, which obviously, because of that, they have a high capital expenditure while setting up the data center. Even to maintain those business high requirement of applications, they need to keep increasing the compute power or the hardware, and also the highly qualified IT people. It costs them the high operational cost. If in case, let's say, they have some business issue and less traffic to their application, then all the resources which they got um, while they had a high requirement of the application, that will be underutilized. uh, Now another example of disadvantage for this deployment is they have to pay the rent, or they have to pay the lease amount to setting up their data center. So it's a very high cost for to get the real estate for the data center. If anything happens in the data center, then organization or the enterprise will be the responsible. So they have to take the risk for everything that happened to the end users experience. So to overcome all these challenges, new deployment model came into the existence where enterprise organization don't have to buy a server. They can rent it as per their usage requirement from vendor. That is nothing but the cloud vendors who are also who provide the this compute power on a rented service. This vendor also known as a cloud provider. See here you can see in a diagram, cloud is nothing but the data center where resources such as the computing, storage, servers, database are given to their end users or the enterprise on the rent as per pay as you use model. So whatever amount or whatever resources you use, that only you have to pay, nothing else you have to pay for even the setting up the server or operational cost of the server. You don't have to pay anything. End users or enterprise uh, employees can access the cloud rented services with the shared internet or with some dedicated connection directly with the cloud provider. Let's say, for example, if development team is in an organization wants to develop some application with OS specific functionality, then they simply can go to a cloud provider and run required VM, install the required OS and other tool for application development. And once done, they can release those resources. So enterprise only has to pay what resources they use for some time period. Cloud provider use like different virtualization technology like VXLAN and other data center virtualization technology to develop such a data center which can be shared among the multiple tenants or the end users as per their demanding needs. This deployment model is very useful, especially for the organization or who used to build their own data center earlier, because because here the cloud provider owns the data center infrastructure, so customer don't have to pay for capital expenditure. And cloud provider will have to maintain the data center, so no operational cost. In fact, there will be having high qualified IT people team who will maintain this cloud provider data center, so there is no cost involvement for of the salary of the employees for the end users or the enterprise. Now, cloud provider has to think about the space acquisition for the DC related. So all the real estate stuff for the data center has to be on a cost related to that real estate has to be bear by the cloud provider itself. Mostly these cloud providers will provide the high service level agreement. If something happens to infrastructure of DC, cloud provider will be responsible, not a end users or a organization who use their services. Now let's see some different types of services cloud provider provide. So based on the services cloud provider give, they are segregated into three different types. First is a software as a service, which is also known as a SaaS, where a cloud provider provide application to use as a service. End user only have to pay based on their subscription plan taken from the cloud provider to use those applications. End user don't have to worry about installation of those applications on their local machine to use. Whenever they want to use those applications, go to your cloud provider portal account and based on your subscription plans just start using those application whenever you need it. In fact, you might have used Office 365 from Microsoft, which is nothing but the software as a service model provided by the Microsoft. And other examples are Salesforce application and NetSuite. Second model is a platform as a service model, where cloud provider provide platform required to build your application and to test it before deploying it into the production. So this type of model is mainly beneficial for application developer who need to have a dedicated infrastructure for building and testing their applications and other related stuff. Some of their example are Joinet, Heroku, and Google App Engine. Third is infrastructure as a service, where service provider provide compute services on a rent. This compute services include server, storage, database, virtual machine, networking stuffs to develop your data center like environment. Some of the example are AWS, Microsoft Azure, and the Google Cloud. Based on the services you take from the cloud provider, there are some responsibility you share with the provider to make sure that smooth operation of the services you take. Let's just compare how it is different when you are owning the entire data center and what will be the responsibility when you take the service from of yours from the cloud provider. Here, as you can see in the diagram, see own if you are owning the entire data center, all the responsibility like run application, data runtime, middleware, virtualization, server, storage, networking, everything will be your responsibility. And if you are taking the infrastructure as a service from the cloud provider, then virtualization of the server, storage, networking, entire will be the data center managed. So ultimately, it would be with the cloud provider who will be managing all this functionality. But while once you take the infrastructure as a service, you have to run your own application, data, runtime, middleware, and operating system. Let's say if you are taking the platform as a service, then you only have to manage your applications and data, which you will be developing and the testing. All other stuff will be managed by the cloud provider itself. If you're taking software as a service, everything will be managed by cloud provider itself. You don't have to worry about anything. You just need to use those application. Once you're done, that just log out from that application. That's it. There are typically three types of cloud deployment model. When I say cloud, it means the data center, which can be accessed by different types of end users as per their need. First is the private cloud deployment model. Private cloud is nothing but your own premises data center where you host your own applications, which will be then be accessed by enterprise employee or their own customers depending on their applications requirement. Everything in private cloud is handled by enterprise or the organization who is owning it for their own purpose. The second deployment model is the public cloud deployment. So public cloud is nothing but the shared cloud or the data center which is managed by the cloud provider itself, who is giving the services on rent, like we discussed earlier. Based on the services you take from the cloud provider, responsibility of the end users or the enterprise and the cloud provider varies as we saw earlier for the different services. Third is the combination of the public and private cloud, that is nothing but the hybrid cloud deployment model. It is the combination of public and the private cloud. So due to some legal issue or some other factors, let's say if enterprise may want to keep some applications on their own private cloud, or they might want to move some of their applications or the services to the public cloud, or take services from the public cloud. Combining these two deployment to run the applications and services all together is nothing but the hybrid cloud deployment. So hope you guys enjoyed the learning. Please give your view in the comment section and please don't forget to subscribe for more such learning. Thank you.